From the Cronkite studios in downtown Phoenix, this is Cronkite News.
Good evening and welcome to the special edition of Cronkite News. I'm Kaylee Nassif. Thanks for joining us. As part of our Cronkite News mission, we focus on specific content areas important to our Arizona viewers. Tonight we highlight reports from our consumer beat, stories on protecting your finances, your health, and your way of life.
Maricopa County is dealing with an outbreak of a bacterial infection in dogs. 50 dogs were diagnosed with a potentially deadly disease in Fountain Hills and Scottsdale. 3 of those dogs died. Usually there are only 4 cases of leptospirosis in Maricopa County each year. Reporter Drew Marine learned vaccines are being made available to all worried pet owners.
By definition, leptospirosis is a bacterial disease that can lead to fever, vomiting, and even death. Not only does it affect dogs, but it can spread to humans too. After hearing about the outbreak in Maricopa County, many owners came to get their dogs vaccinated at the Arizona Animal Welfare League this weekend.
My mom sent me an article that said there was a bit of an outbreak, so I just wanted to, she goes to dog parks, so I just wanted to be safe. It's like your baby. You want to protect your dog.
Leptospirosis is typically found in a dog's urine and is easily spread throughout groups. So keeping your dog vaccinated means you're protecting other dogs too. Director of Volunteers and Special Events, Whitney Steele, says keeping your dog up to date on vaccines is a foolproof way to keep them healthy.
So if yours is well vaccinated, then they're safe and it's kind of like a little protective bubble around them. And it just makes sure that your animal is going to live the best possible life they can.
And owner Margaret Birch wanted to get her dog vaccinated before it was too late.
Keep him healthy to prevent him from having to go to the vet and experience the disease.
Only 50 doses of the vaccination were offered this weekend, but within the next week, the AAWL will have more. In Phoenix, Drew Marine, Cronkite News.
If you didn't get a chance to get the shot this weekend, don't worry. The AAWL is getting more doses for next month. So if you want to get your furry friend vaccinated, you can make an appointment with your local animal shelter.
This weekend was a rainy one in Phoenix, but that didn't stop families from spending time outdoors. Reporter Kaylee Nassif went to a day camp where kids learn how to survive in nature.
Around 100 children and their families gathered at the Rio Salado Audubon Center on Saturday to learn about the great outdoors in the heart of Phoenix. On a rainy day in downtown Phoenix, most people would be inside, but at the Arizona Elk Society's Wild in the City program, children and families were encouraged to embrace all that Mother Nature had to offer.
Our goal was we need to get young people involved in the outdoors. Anything we could do to get them off of video games and get them out of the house, just so they can experience it.
Ken Tora, who's the youth program coordinator for the Arizona Elk Society, calls the curriculum STREAM, which stands for Science, Technology, Recreation, Engineering, Arts, and Math. Many of the volunteers are teachers and wildlife experts who want to encourage the kids to learn about nature.
We showed them the skulls of some of the birds. This is the skull of a great horned owl.
The big thing the Arizona Elk Society is trying to teach kids today is how to conserve nature, but also still have some fun. Kids spent the day panning for gold and shooting arrows, but the clear favorite was dissecting owl pellets to find the bones of their prey.
A lot of them are usually really grossed out, but kids like the gross stuff sometimes. And actually we tend to see the girls dig into the owl pellets first and really get into it.
I digged in poop. I found a lot of skulls.
Families came from as far as Tucson and Lake Havasu for the chance to study wildlife and how to conserve the environment, even if that environment was a little wet. To keep up with demand, the Arizona Elk Society is looking to expand their Wild in the City programs to 4 times a year, along with hosting a weekend summer camp for families. In Phoenix, Kaylee Nassif, Cronkite News.
Arizonans may want to think twice before sinking their teeth into a home-baked pastry. It's illegal in our state to sell certain goods prepared in home kitchens, but Cronkite News reporter Janie Hoyt tells us what you should watch out for.
Back in 2011, the Arizona legislature passed some legislation that allowed for a home-baked and confectionery goods program here in the state.
Taryn McQuilkin, owner of the Muffin Girl in Mesa, took full advantage of this program when she started out.
And I found the program in Arizona for home-baked goods, and I did some more research, and I was able to be a good participant for it.
To participate in the program, home bakers have to apply for a certificate on the health department's website. Once obtained, this certificate never expires. The program instills many guidelines that McQuilkin had to follow to ensure food safety.
So it has to be properly labeled, it has to list the ingredients, specify that it's been made in a private home, and then there's only certain categories of food that are allowed to be manufactured under the program as well.
It is also required to have your food handler's card to be in the program in Maricopa County. However, 5 counties in Arizona do not require it. But it doesn't require that home kitchens be inspected by the health department, so it's important to ask questions and be cautious when purchasing home-baked goods.
And because home-baked and confectionery goods participants are not regulated in the same way that, say, a restaurant or something is regulated, it's really important that they're only making foods that are non-potentially hazardous.
The Muffin Girl recommends to do research on any home-baked goods you plan to buy. She says to make sure the person is certified and read the labels carefully to ensure for a good product.
And talk to the vendors. Ask them when the product was made, how often they do it, how long they've been doing it.
So it's buyer beware. In Phoenix, Janie Hoyt, Cronkite News.
For a list of approved foods, food production guidelines, and labeling requirements, head to the Arizona Department of Health Services website.
Phoenix is home to a growing number of Muslims. Reporter Drew Marine takes us to one mosque that has opened its doors in an effort to bridge gaps and clear up misconceptions.
People of different faiths are here at the United Islamic Center of Arizona to learn more about Islam.
The fear after 9/11 of Islam and ISIS and things of that nature, and the only way you can resolve that fear is with knowledge.
The audience member had asked, why are some Muslims violent if Islam is a religion of peace? The United Islamic Center of Arizona opens its doors to people of all faiths to build bridges in the community.
So we have so much in common, and that's what we need to build on.
Panelist Aisha Kawaja says bringing adults of different backgrounds together sets an example for kids to be open-minded.
I think what it does in terms for younger generations is to promote that environment of tolerance and unity that we all really long for.
8-year-old Mustafa wanted to teach us the deeper meaning of hijabs.
When the women wear the rafta that's on their hair, like that lady over there, what it actually means is for peace.
And that was the goal of the Islamic Open House: to learn, to share, to live peacefully. In Phoenix, Drew Marine, Cronkite News.
They once deployed halfway around the globe to fight for our country. Nowadays, driving 15 miles can be a hassle. But in service of Arizona's veterans, the VA is picking up the slack on the mobility front. Cronkite News reporter Anthony Mitchell went to Mesa to find out how Veterans Affairs looks to modernize house calls.
We've been here since 7:30 this morning, and in less than 2 hours, we've already served over 60 veterans, so it's kind of exciting.
For these Mesa retirees, waking up early isn't the problem. But as Army veteran Michael Wayne Springer explains, getting to the almost hour-away outpatient clinic in Gilbert is becoming more of a task.
I know some vets that are in their 80s and 90s that really have a hard time getting around, and they still live at home, with their wives.
This truck, recently acquired from a VA in New York, brings the clinic to those who need it most. The VA looked up vets who were behind on their immunizations and let Charles Bishop know when they'd be in the neighborhood.
I just live down the street here, so one, it was good that they called me, and it was very good that it was really, it was appreciated.
This immunization campaign is just a part of what this 40-foot truck is capable of. It's outfitted with a full-service exam room, and using onboard Wi-Fi, it can host a virtual house call. Using this transportable exam station, a qualified nurse can use this stethoscope, this ENT cam, or this total exam HD camera to stream HD vitals to a qualified medical professional in the Phoenix VA for non-mobile veterans in need of medical care. Telehealth nurse Valentine Revish says the turnout has been exciting.
We're targeting different areas across the map to try to service as many veterans as possible.
And with Veteran Affairs estimating a state population of 500,000 vets, this truck is sure to see a lot of miles. In Mesa, Anthony Mitchell, Cronkite News.
About 200,000 of Arizona's veterans are over the age of 70, and the truck has already made stops at some of the largest communities, including Sun City and Surprise. We've all seen Western movies and TV shows, but how many of those cowboys or cowgirls were of color? As Courtney Columbus discovered, up to 1 in 4 American cowboys were black, and a popular event in the Valley celebrates their heritage.
Expert riders maneuver horses at full speed in a dusty arena on the Gila River Indian Reservation. But look closely and you'll see these are cowboys and cowgirls of color.
As African American, it brings us together, first and foremost.
Thousands came out to appreciate the bull riding, steer wrestling, and women's barrel racing at the annual Arizona Black Rodeo.
It's the way to, acknowledge the town that, black cowboys are for real.
One of the things that, a lot of people forget in our country is the African-American cowboys.
The atmosphere at this rodeo reminded Bobby Rodriguez of his family's native country.
My family is in Brazil, and Brazilian rodeo is somewhat like this, a lot of dancing, a lot of good music.
It's Charlie Sampson's 3rd time at this event, but his involvement in rodeo goes back more than 4 decades.
Get on this one. Come here, little lady. After all the years of training to be a bull rider, I lucked out and won a world's championship in '82, but I was fortunate enough to be the first man of color to win a championship in professional rodeo. What a great honor.
Phoenix resident Kim Stewart attended the rodeo for the first time this year.
Just the overall event was wonderful. Watching everyone, the children, the women, cowgirls were awesome. They're so strong and fearless.
Although most of the participants were black, the rodeo was of course open to people of all races.
Rodeo has no color line.
In Chandler, Courtney Columbus, Cronkite News.
A new study by AAA puts millennials at the top of the list of worst behaved drivers. Janie Hoyt is live in Phoenix to tell us about what is being done to combat this issue.
That's right, driving a car is pretty second nature to most people, so they don't think sending a text message or making a phone call is a big deal. According to a new report, 88% of millennial drivers engage in risky behavior behind the wheel. But AAA and Arizona DPS are cracking down on distracted driving.
A girl was coming down the lane for the parking lot, and she hit the side of my car because she was texting the whole entire time.
ASU student Brianna Larson was a victim of a distracted driver, but even after that crash, she admits to occasionally changing her music and using her GPS while driving.
I don't really feel like it distracts me. I'm full aware of what's happening.
But AAA found traffic fatalities were up by 6% nationwide last year.
AAA is concerned that these drivers find these behaviors okay because they do lead to more traffic accidents.
AAA Arizona is trying to pass a bill that would prohibit new drivers from texting while driving.
Senate Bill 1080 is sponsored by Rep. Karen Fan, and it will prohibit teens with the first 6 months of their GDL license of texting while driving.
Arizona Department of Public Safety Trooper Cameron Lee says it is difficult to cite someone for distracted driving.
It is hard, distracted driving, texting. Those laws can be hard to enforce because we have to prove it.
Although there is no law in our state prohibiting texting while driving just yet, you can still get in trouble for it.
We actually cite people for the violation that's caused because of the distraction.
Both DPS and AAA want you to consider how much road you cover when you're not paying attention. A car going 30 miles per hour can travel 44 yards, nearly half a football field, in 3 seconds.
We need drivers to realize that what they do on the road does have an effect, and it is very concerning to see that these young millennial drivers are admitting to feeling that these behaviors are okay.
The study also found that young millennial drivers are more likely to run red lights and speed, even without being distracted. Live in Phoenix, Janie Hoyt, Cronkite News.
As temperatures rise, so does the number of dogs and cats in Maricopa County animal shelters. Judson Tomiko visited Maricopa County Animal Care and Control to see how they're trying to adopt out more pets.
Summer is the busy season for both shelters ran by Maricopa County Animal Care and Control. But this year, with more than 750 dogs already in their care, the busy season is coming early. Annual reports show the shelters took in over 57,000 dogs in 2009, a number they were able to drop to around 36,000 by 2015, thanks to what they say is increased spade and neutering efforts. However, volunteers say they still need help.
We're the only open intake shelter in the valley, so we can never turn away a dog, no matter how full we are. Our doors are always open.
After limiting euthanations to only animals with severe health or social problems, adoption is the top priority for the shelter. For the months of March, Animal Care and Control reduced their adoption fees on adult dogs to $20, and adult cats have no fee. Animal lovers like Sharonda Askew couldn't resist taking advantage to adopt a new fur baby.
I love it here. I think they do a great job. I hope they just keep doing what they're doing and keep putting these dogs in places where people like me can come and get a good dog.
The people who work at the shelter believe for every dog adopted, 2 lives are rescued. The one that was adopted and the one that now has room to take its place in the shelter.
Anybody who sees this, please come down, and even if you don't adopt a dog, just asking to get them out for a meet and greet gets them out of their kennel and gets their exposures to people.
Playing with the animals, no leash attached, is welcome. In Phoenix, Judson Tomiko, Cronkite News.
While the fees for dogs and cats are reduced, puppies and kittens under 6 months old are still their regular price.
Tensions are rising over the proposal of the AHCA across the nation. Cronkite News reporter McKenna Delgarno tells us how the change could affect people here in the Valley.
If the AHCA is passed, Arizonans with and without insurance could be affected. I talked to ASU's School for the Science of Healthcare Delivery about what people can expect. There are currently 1.9 million people that are covered by Medicaid in Arizona. 400,000 of those people are covered through the expansion of the Affordable Care Act. If the ACA is repealed, this number would diminish.
We would not be covering any new participants in Medicaid expansion, and the ones that are already covered through expansion would only be able to maintain coverage if they continue to be eligible.
Swapna Reddy, a clinical assistant professor at ASU, says hospitals have their concerns with the repeal.
Most of the hospital systems in Arizona and across the United States are not particularly supportive of this bill because they're very concerned about increasing the number of uninsured in the United States.
If a patient can't pay for their medical services because they don't have insurance, then unfortunately it comes out of the taxpayer's wallet. The Congressional Budget Office says that those who have insurance could expect to see a 20% increase in their premiums as well.
The way that premiums actually rise is when you have less people, especially less healthy people in the insurance marketplace, the overall costs for care increase.
This affects not only adults but children as well. 125,000 Arizona children could lose coverage to the loss of kids care or Medicaid too. If Arizona loses federal funding for Medicaid, Reddy says the question becomes, where will this money come from? McKenna Delgarno, Cronkite News.
The Arizona Center here in downtown Phoenix is getting a multi-million-dollar makeover. Cronkite News reporter Janie Hoyt attended the groundbreaking event today and is live to tell us what the plans are for this renovation.
Yes, I'm here at the Arizona Center where the groundbreaking event happened earlier today. The plan for renovation includes making this area more inviting to pedestrians.
3, 2, 1.
The Arizona Center in downtown Phoenix has been around for over 2 decades and has undergone several renovations throughout the years. This, however, will be the biggest makeover it's had yet.
This marks the start of a multi-million-dollar refresh project that will transform the way Arizona Center looks and feels, and also the way it welcomes residents, students, employees, and visitors to our downtown.
Parallel Capital Partners and Skanska USA are partnering to bring new elements to the center, like valet parking, removing the escalators to create an open courtyard, and placing illuminated screens on the front of the building.
And we talked about on 3rd Street is taking this introverted environment on 3rd Street and making it extroverted.
Rafael Campos is the store manager for Flag World, a retail store that has been here since it opened in 1990. Campos says he is hopeful for this new renovation.
We think it'll be beneficial to our business if when all the renovations are done, they are able to bring in more retail tenants because having more retail tenants in the center would bring in more local people.
The redesign is going to add more opportunity for new restaurants and retail stores to open up shop, and it's going to modernize the look of the complex.
The project will take about 9 months to complete, and construction starts on Monday. In downtown Phoenix, Janie Hoyt, Cronkite News.
Cronkite News reporter Mia Maslar tells us ASU researchers may have found a way to detect them before any symptoms even show up.
early detection is important, because it takes it from a disease which is very, very difficult to even consider treating, let alone curing, into a disease where possibly you can manage it.
Philip Zableski is undergoing clinical trials for pancreatic cancer at the Translational Genomics Institute. He beat stage 4 cancer once, but it's back again. Research shows pancreatic cancer develops slowly over decades. Researchers at Arizona State University's Biodesign Institute developed a new blood test called immunosignature, which can indicate whether a person is likely to develop diseases like pancreatic cancer.
We figured that if we could figure out some way to monitor people's health on a regular basis and to diagnose disease early, we could make medicine more effective and much less expensive, and that's what we set out to invent.
The technology makes it possible for doctors to diagnose diseases before they can be detected with imaging machines. Johnston says by looking at someone's blood sample using the immunosignature chip, doctors can determine which diseases they are likely to develop.
You put it on a little piece of paper, basically a filter paper. You can let it dry, put it in a standard envelope, and send it through the mail to be analyzed.
Researchers here at the TGen Institute in Phoenix are conducting their own cancer studies, but they hope that in the future, the immunosignature technology will benefit their work. Both research institutes say early detection has an ambitious future. Understanding information in blood samples is only the beginning of better health diagnosis.
What we are looking at is mutations that are present inside the cancer cell in its DNA. What this group is looking at is looking at markers that are potentially present on the surface of the cancer cell, so on the cell membrane of the cancer cell. And so both have significant advantages, and you know, both could use the help of the other in a way.
Researchers hope the immunosignature technology could be widely available in the next few years. In Phoenix, Mia Maslar, Cronkite News.
A 12-year-old cancer survivor is now back at school after 2.5 years of treatment.
Reporter Drew Marine shows us how one program called HOPE is making this transition back to school worry-free for students like Emma Kerr.
12-year-old cancer survivor Emma Kerr is back to school this week after her last successful round of chemo.
It's great to be chemo-free.
And while she was preparing for her return, her classmates at Ingleside Middle School learned what they have to do as HOPE ambassadors to make her transition back to school an easy one.
Through this program, we are able to educate, we are able to pull on their heartstrings with compassion, and then bring them to action, which for them is to become a HOPE ambassador.
HOPE stands for Honor Our Peers Every Day. HOPE volunteers and program coordinators like Sharon Wozni teach elementary to high school students about what they can do to make their classmates return to school comfortable and clear up any misconceptions they may have about cancer. Missing more than a year's worth of school can be stressful, but Emma is comforted by the fact that her classmates learned everything they needed to know about her absence through the presentation.
I think it made it a little bit easier because most people don't know why sometimes I'm out so many times or why I have to be in certain things at certain times, why I get tired easily.
The main point 7th grader Paige Sturm took from the HOPE presentation was that outside appearances mean nothing when it comes to friendship.
Just because you have cancer doesn't mean that you're gonna change so dramatically. Maybe there's a physical appearance change, but that doesn't mean you're gonna change on the inside.
But all worries aside, Emma is happy to be back with her friends every day at school. In Phoenix, Drew Marine, Cronkite News.
HOPE volunteers and coordinators are traveling to cities across Arizona in the next few weeks for students like Emma who are getting back into their normal school routine.
If you want the HOPE organization to help someone you know transition back to school smoothly, you can go to childrenscancernetwork.org.
And the hike will have an impact here in Arizona. I spoke with financial advisors and mortgage experts to see what they expect.
The median income borrower just lost about $6,500 in purchasing power.
That's for borrowers here in Maricopa County. But Sydney Peck at the ASU Center for Entrepreneurship says that could be a good thing.
None of this happens in a vacuum, and we just need to pay attention to the decisions that we make, and we might think a little bit longer and a little bit harder about taking on debt, which I think we should be doing anyway.
Peck's area of expertise is venture capitalism and business. Some experts are saying that consumers may be impacted differently. For the average small business owner or venture capitalist, a rate hike of this size will be an inconvenience at the most. But for members of the middle class making a first-time big-ticket purchase, such as a home or auto, this could be the difference of being in your budget or not. Ryan Eaglin has been an investment advisor in the Valley for 13 years. He said that this hike will disproportionately affect lower-income people.
Generally, people who are going out there and getting loans are going to be people who are your middle class, people who cannot afford a mortgage by paying cash, people who can't afford a mortgage, to buy a car.
Mortgage lender Eddie Knoll tracks daily interest rates in Arizona. He has found that in anticipation of the rate hike, the interest rate market has been increasing. And if the rates continue to change as predicted, this could mean a lot of money for the average borrower.
If you take the rate hike, which is 1/4, and the 2 more that are potentially coming this year, that's going to be 0.75%. That 0.75%, they will lose as a result of they will lose $20,000 of purchasing power.
One thing you should do, keep an eye out on the interest rate of your credit cards. If you have a variable interest rate, expect it to go up at the same amount as the federal hike.
Thanks for joining us for this special edition of Cronkite News. For more multimedia coverage, go to cronkitenews.azpbs.org and click on the Consumer tab.
I'm Scott Pelley, anchor and managing editor of the CBS Evening News. In our changing media landscape, it is crucial for journalism education to ensure a commitment to the truth, unbiased reporting, strong ethics, unwavering fairness, and above all else, accuracy. These are the hallmarks of ASU's Walter Cronkite School of Journalism and Mass Communication. It's a place where students can innovate and transform the news industry while always upholding the values of the school's namesake. The Cronkite School at ASU, preparing the next generation for a stronger future of journalism.